Nancy today. Somebody asked me to tell you about my life on the farm. Well, I lived on a farm for 8 years. I went to Canada and I met a fellow who owned a farm. And I got married and I became a landed immigrant and we moved to his farm. And it was an old farmhouse built in the 1800s, I think. And it didn't have, we only heated with wood. We had a wood stove and it was in the kitchen. And so it didn't heat the upstairs, so the upstairs froze. And the toilet was upstairs, which froze. So you had to carry a bucket of hot water upstairs, pour it in first, and then go. And then pour it in again to flush. Melt the frozen ice up there. Anyway, and that was my first cold. And it was cold. I often was in amazement at whoever had come up there to Canada had stayed. Of course, the people that came to Canada didn't come from the south. They came from Europe, and they came down through the St. Lawrence Seaway. And so they first settled and created Quebec City, and then down to Montreal, and then down to Ottawa. And so, actually it was up to Ottawa, because you were going up to the mouth of the river, or up into the mouth of the river, into the land, from this wide bay. I guess it's this Labrador Sea. Anyway, and so people didn't come up to Canada that settled it. They came down south into Canada, and it was into Upper Canada, which is where we were. Okay, and so when we got to the farm, we had renters who moved out, and then we had a barn, a big, huge barn, and a drive shed, and a house, and 145 acres, and we had, I think, about 50 acres of muck soil, of dark, black soil. It was very deep. It was like 6 feet deep. And then we had 100 acres of clay soil, I guess 30 acres of woods. It was very nice. We had maple trees all along the lane, the gravel lane, and there were 5 telephone poles along the lane. That's how long the lane was. It was 5 telephone poles long. How far apart are telephone poles? Who knows? And we went to church. It was in Listowel, Ontario. Well, it was near Brussels. Actually, it was very close to Newry, between Newry and Brussels. And we went to church in Stratford, because we were Mormons, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then we got animals. We had pigs. I guess he had bought 10 pigs from his father, and he had bred them one at a time as they came into heat. And so as those pigs were about to give birth, we brought them home to our barn. His brothers owned a farm, and his father owned another farm. And so his whole family was farmers. And they had all come from England. I don't know how long ago, 20 years ago, maybe? No, not even. 5 years ago. I think he had been 19 when he came. And I married him when he was 25. So he had gone up to the Klondike, up to the Yukon, and he had worked in mines. And by the time he was 25 years old, he had $20,000 saved up. And that was a huge amount of money. So he bought the farm. And then he had these animals come. So then we had baby pigs. And we renovated the barn. We put in cement walls. I built a cement wall. I did a very bad job. It became a very bowed wall because I didn't support the 2 sides of the wall. I didn't tighten them close together very well. So it became a fat on top wall. And we put in everything in the barn. We put in watering bowls, and we built pig pens, and we put down cement floor. We did tons of stuff in there, all by hand. We didn't hire people. We did it all. But that was our whole income soon. And so we were very poor. And so I gardened. And he plowed a bit of the field beside the house. And the fields all went around the house. Or around the house and barn. You know, we had a roundabout, and there's this house and the drive shed and the barn. And the fields surrounded it all the way up the lane. Anyway, we had apple trees on the farm, wild apple trees. And so I would gather the apples and make pies and things. And as the pigs got big enough, we would send them to market. We had a farrow, I don't know, but we had baby pigs, and then they would grow up and get to be 250 pounds, and then we would send them to market. And the pigs generally had between 8 and 12 babies. And if we didn't have diseases or, what was that called? Scours. It was diarrhea. And these pigs would just, like, if it got into the pigs, they would just, it could kill them all. We lost a lot of pigs in those times. And there was no marketing board, pig marketing board, so that the price fluctuated with the market. So when the price was high, millions of people would add pigs to their barns and ship them, and then the price would go down. So you could never know how much money you were going to get. It wasn't like dairy. Dairy farmers had quota. So you could only sell so much milk, and you had to buy quota if you're going to sell milk. And so you knew how much money you would get. It was always the same. And it would never be more, and it would never be less. And so you could really plan on things. We didn't have that. So on the farm, I had a big raspberry patch, and there were gooseberry bushes, currants, red currants, and maybe black currants, and elderberries, lots of elderberries, and choke cherries. And my garden was huge, or just tremendously huge. So I grew a year's supply of food. Had this big, huge freezer, 22 cubic foot freezer. And the second year I think I was there, I got a second freezer. Because we had grown so much food that we now had 2 years supply of food. And then I had Elida, Virginia. Virginia was my little baby. And it was so nice to have her. She was so wonderful. And I spent a lot of time in the barn doing chores. I didn't do as many chores as my husband. He did most of it. But I helped. I would castrate the baby pigs and cut their tails, and really used to like cutting their tails. I don't think I cut many tails. And I would give them their iron shots and cut their teeth when they were born. Had these very sharp teeth. You had to cut them with wire cutters. Snip, snip. And I guess they were like pliers with a sharp thing in it. I would bring my little girl, and we would sit in the pens, in the pig pen. We had these farrowing crates, or these pens where the babies could get out underneath the bottom slat of wood, and they would come out into this part with a triangle part that had a heating lamp there. And so I would go out there with my baby, and I would, we would play with the pigs. Virginia became a great animal lover, and she carried the pigs around with her. And then I had chickens. I had 50 chickens, Rhode Island red hens. So I started selling eggs. I would just ship them to the egg marketing board. Hi, Willem.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then when we had gotten married, somebody gave us a sheep. Actually, 2 sheep. And then we had gotten a goat. Splotch. That was fun. Except when we brought the goat home, he ran away. And Kevin ran after him. And I thought, this goat ran fast as the wind, and I would have given up. I thought, oh, well, that's that. But Kevin kept running. Ran, 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 long past when I would have given up. And he got the goat. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'll never get over that. Anyway, so we had goats, which I eventually milked, and sheep, and I wanted to shear the sheep. I did shear once, and keep the fleece. I wanted to learn to spin it and knit it, and make a sweater. Used to knit sweaters for Kevin, and for other people. I guess Kevin was the one I knitted the sweaters for. So that's part 1 of my life as a farmer. All right, now you know. Bye-bye.